Brent.
Back to
Thank you, Liz.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Brighton Area Schools Board of Education meeting. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Staff, can I roll call, please?
Mrs. Urbane. Present. Mrs. Tierney. Present. Mr. Storm.
Present.
Mr. Stahl.
Present.
Dr. Krebs. Present. Mrs. Marks. Here. Mr. Myers.
Here. All right, that moves us to the approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion? So moved. By Mr. Stahl, supported by Mr. Storm. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any nays? That passes 7-0. That moves us to the superintendent report. Dr. Alba.
Right. Thank you so much. I'm going to invite forward our outstanding senior leaders. Come on. Ashlyn and Charlotte.
Hi everyone, today we're going to be doing a student report and we just wanted to reintroduce ourselves since we know there's some new board members. My name is Charlotte Manzik. I'm one of the 3 2-year members on leadership. I'm also vice president of exec board, member of the school tennis team, president of NHS, and involved in Interact Club, UNICEF Club, BCOM, and HOSA.
My name is Ashlyn Burns. I'm one of the other second-year members of leadership. I'm the president of exec board. I'm a tennis captain. I'm a member of NHS. I'm a euchre club co-president. I'm a member of the garden club, DECA, and BCOM. And then that up there in the corner is Nate. He is the 3rd second-year member. Unfortunately, he couldn't be here with us tonight.
So I know in the past we've talked to you about Pink Week before. It's a fundraiser we did to raise money for breast cancer for Trinity in Brighton. And we raised a total of $85,000, but we just wanted to share with you something super cool we got to do recently.
So recently, our leadership class took a trip to Trinity Cancer Center to do a check presentation of the $85,000. It was a lot of fun to get to see where all of our money had gone. So in the past, our money has gone to helping pay for 4 new chemotherapy bays, transportation services for patients who can't afford it, and support services like counseling for patients whose insurance doesn't cover it.
And a lot of our pre-received donations have gone towards enhancing patient experience, especially during chemotherapy sessions.
Since its start in 2012, Brighton Area Schools has donated over $425,000, all of which has gone directly to Trinity Cancer Center in Brighton.
Also, since we last saw you, we were able to put on our Operation Christmas Wishes fundraiser. We did a lot of different events like to caroling downtown during Ladies' Night, a hot cocoa and bake sale, a photo booth with pics with Santa, candy grams, and a euchre tournament.
So with the $18,500 that we raised in partnership with the Overstrong Foundation, we bought over 400 Christmas presents. We took a day to wrap them, and then we all took a day off of school. We took a bus down to Perry Early Learning Center in Ypsilanti, and we got to deliver the presents. Not only was it a really fun day for the students at Perry, but it was also a really fun day for all of our leadership kids.
Also, right before Christmas break, our leadership class was able to put on our annual holiday assembly, and this year we had an SNL name frame. We did our annual class hand clap, we had lots of fun skits, and we also were able to show our Operation Christmas Wishes video that we made with the help of VidPro. And we also featured a lot of groups from BHS, like the pom team, a teacher band, our a cappella groups, and a guitar solo by John Hura. Also, the National Honor Society has been very busy lately. We've recently put on a bake sale and a collection drive to raise money and support people in our community. Also, senior and survivor applications just closed for senior survivor teams, and we had an all-member meeting where we voted on senior survivor charities, so that's more to come. And also, our tutoring committee has been holding tutoring sessions for high school students.
Next, we had 2 clubs that we really wanted to highlight. So recently, DECA just had its district competition. It was a lot of fun. For those of you who don't know what DECA is, it's a business club where you go to competitions and compete in business role plays. And it was a huge success. We had 51 state qualifiers, 112 medals, and 106 students that competed. And in the district competition, students have the chance to win up to 3 medals. You can win one for your test, one for your role play, and then one if you qualify for states.
Another group very similar to DECA that recently had a regional qualifier was HOSA. The difference between DECA and HOSA is for future healthcare professionals, and we had 37 state qualifiers this year.
So that's all we have for you guys. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Charlotte. I actually appreciate you being here. Your presentations are always incredibly impressive, and only outdone by all of the tremendous leadership that the two of you and everyone, the leadership team, the National Honor Society, all of the tremendous work that you do for the benefit and betterment not only of your fellow students, but those in the community, and obviously even in other communities. And it's very impressive. We commend you for all of the tremendous leadership that you do show, and we're super excited and proud of all of the successes that the high school students have exhibited in all of these various initiatives. So congratulations, and thank you again for being here tonight. Appreciate it.
All right. So next up, we have Mr. Jones is going to come forward, and he is going to do a presentation on our mid-year budget map. Thank you, Mr. Jones.
Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the mid-year budget amendment presentation. So in your packet, there is a resolution for you to approve the passage of amended budgets for 4 funds: our general fund, which is our operating fund, the food service fund, the community education fund, and the capital project fund. I want to start, so I want to do a recap of the budget process for 2 reasons. Number one, we have 3 new board members, so I could walk through walk them through the budget process. And then it was a very interesting year when it came to the state budget. So I just wanted to give everybody a little bit of a background of some of the interesting things that happened in the fall. So the first thing is the state regulation mandates that all school districts must pass a budget by June 30th every year. Now, of course, this is very interesting timing because in the month of June, all the main factors that are used to determine the budget are unknown. So because of that, we use basically estimates for everything. Some of the things we do have is at the state level, there will be a Senate, a House, and a governor's proposed budget that is published. So we'll kind of use that as our basis, and we'll come up with all of our estimates off of that. The actual state budget typically is not done until July, so we don't get those numbers until then. So we went through the process and we passed our budget in June, and then the final state budget came out, and it was had a lot of differences from the 3 proposed budgets that were floating around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through those changes and give you an idea of how we ended up. And now the good part is we can do amended budgets during the year, which is why we do want it up to the halfway point, because now we have a lot more information and we have concrete information. Our enrollment, the per pupil foundation amount, things like that. We have all that information. So this is a far more accurate budget than the one we put together in June. So what changed in the fall when the final state budget came out? Well, the first thing is we were counting on an increase to the per pupil foundation amount, which is the amount that we get set by the state each year for each pupil in the district. And all 3 budgets that were floating out there from the state had between a 2 to 3% increase. We had estimated a 2.5% increase, and it ended up being 0. So to make up for the lost revenue, because they did not give us any foundation increase, is they gave us a one-time payment, which is based on, I'm going to call it mid-service, but what that is the retirement program. And what it is a 5.75% of last year's salaries we will get in a payment this year over the 12 months of the year. So, and the other thing that they included was there's a grant out there called the 31AA grant, which is for security services. And the state had indicated they were gonna drop it 10%, that's what we budgeted. And when the actual final budget came out, it actually was dropped 90%. But since that came out, the state has set aside money, and coming in the spring, they will be reallocating more money for the 31AA grant. So a big impact at the beginning, but then they came back and said, because everybody was a huge impact to everybody, they did kind of pull back on that one. And then the final piece that was different after the initial budget was done is in the retirement program, in order to fund the unallocated liability of the pension, all school districts are charged a certain amount and then we get that money back. It's basically a pass-through. Those percentages were dropped, so there's no real bottom line impact. It is just a change in our revenue and our expenses. All right, so dollar-wise, what did this all mean? So the first thing is our revenues decreased by $3.2 million, or about 2.5%. So between the foundation reduction and the increase, those increases in the retirement dollars, we did see a decrease in our overall revenue. The good part is our estimated enrollment actually ended up being about 24 students higher than what we estimated. That's about a 0.2% increase, but that does bring more dollars to the district. There were grant revenues that were increased, or new grants that were put out there that we did not budget. And then the final piece is our interest income. So the district receives interest income on all our bank balances. And during the budget process, I had budgeted a lower level of interest income, because all indications in the spring is that the Fed was going to lower interest rates. And when the Fed lowers interest rates, the interest rates that we the interest that we get on our dollars will go down. And since then, the Fed has not done those reductions. They have put those off. So it looks like by the end of the year, we actually will do much better on our interest income. So on the expense side, there also were significant impact on our expenses. So our expenses decreased by over $3.3 million, or about 2.6%. First thing is there was a pretty significant reduction in our salaries. Reason being is in the BEA contract, there is a clause where they get the enrollment trigger. The enrollment trigger is based on state foundation revenue. And when the state went ahead and gave us a zero increase in our revenue, obviously it took away, basically there's no way they could make that trigger. Pension expenses were decreased because, like I had said before, there's a pass-through where the district is charged and we get money back from the state, and they lower those percentages. So that means our pension expense in total will go down on the expense side. And then pension expense will also go down because when we don't reach the trigger, all of those extra salaries, we counted on retirement dollars for that, which will not happen. Our capital outlay, on the other hand, did increase. A few of these items we have talked about before. The first thing is the change order that we did. You all recall in the fall, we had to do that change order for the windows in this building here because the bond had been fully spent and our grant monies were tapped out. That money fell to general fund. We also, the other increase in our capital outlay budget is for the science room over at the high school, which I had estimated an amount for that. Nobody knew what it was going to cost, and of course I came pretty short on that one. The good side is we did have a reduction in capital outlay in our transportation department because we had put into the budget to replace the fuel tanks. And it's just been taking longer to get that process done. And so right now we're projecting to have that done in the summer, which means that will be in next year's budget. So that saved us money there. So there is an increase in our budget for healthcare, and the reason being is there was a bill passed in the lame duck session called PA 152, which raises the healthcare cap by 7%. That bill is not finalized and signed because there are a few flaws in the bill, but in order to give us protection in case it goes through before the end of the year, I included the increase in our budget. It may or may not happen, so that could be a decent pickup if that does not come through until next year. And then the last piece is all other expenses, throughout the district, changed about $200,000. They decreased just upon, run rates change and things were different, but that's a very small percentage of our overall expenses. So what does all this mean? After all that stuff, all those different pieces, our bottom line changed by just over $130,000. So with this new budget, our excess net revenues is just over $1.6 million. And in the resolution, as the board had talked about in previous board meetings, is to the excess funds from fiscal year '24, we want to move into our capital projects fund to use those for future projects in the district. That will bring our fund balance to just under about $18 million, which puts us at 14.6%. And the goal of school districts is to have a 15% fund balance. So we are very, very close to that goal. All right, next budget is do we have a question?
Mr. Jones, yeah, while we're still finishing up the general fund, maybe asking.
I just have one question, David, it's more for the benefit of the public than myself, because we discussed this in committee. But you referenced the science classroom, but you left out the most important part, the cost.
Yeah.
So I think it'd be valuable for the public to hear
Okay.
what that classroom is actually costing the district.
Yes, so the total cost of that classroom right now is at $535,000. Just one
And it's
thing,
projected to be how much when the project's complete?
that's the $535,000, that's the cost of the construction, that's cost of the architects, and furniture. Yes,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Any other questions relating to the general funds budget? Okay.
Okay, all right, let's move on to the food services budget. Here's what's going on with food service for this year, two good things, is both the state and at the federal level, they are still funding all student meals. They did raise the per meal price this year, and our run rate for the first few months is actually higher than what it was last year. So when we budgeted, we used last year's run rate, and so because of that, with the increase in the prices and the increase in the volumes, we're looking at about a 9.5% increase in our revenue on food service. And on the expense side, we're actually looking at a big increase. Two reasons, of course, if we're serving more meals, there's more food cost. There's also an inflation factor for the food cost. And then because of the excess fund balance in the food service, our director of food service has been working hard to spend that money, making improvements throughout the district. And so our expenses have gone up about $500,000 over what we budgeted for last year. So what this means for this year is our fund balance will go down by about $140,000, which actually is a good thing because based on regulation, we cannot carry excess fund balance in food service. And so that will put our fund balance projected right now at about $1.4 million. And we will continue, that is actually a little bit too high, we will continue to work that down. Community ed budget is very simple. Bottom line is very little difference here. The only reason we're asking for an amended budget is so we can amend all the individual accounts to make them more accurate of what their run rate is for right now. Right now, our changed bottom line revenue and expenses is only about $13,000. And then finally, the capital projects fund, which I talked about, we're asking to move our fund balance from operating fund to the capital funds project. So basically, what runs through the capital funds project is we have a couple revenue items, which is the cash that sits in the bank can earn interest. And then every year we put revenue from BCPA, from ticket sales, into that fund to help us pay for future needs for that program. And the only expenses that run through that fund right now is about $200 with the bank fees for having a bank account. So with the transfer from the general fund, that would put our projected fund balance at about $9.5 million. And that is it. Any other questions?
Any questions?
Just, Ken, I don't know if you want to share just on behalf of the committee, how we've been discussing this with Dave and Dr. Alma, just as far as kind of what we're hoping to do. I don't want to put you on the spot, but
What you did.
I'd be happy
I could-
to just share some.
I could just, I'll just run off the topics discussed if that helps. The back construction update, we did speak about that, that should be wrapping up in February. Hopefully, I understand how we're working on old building roads. Turf replacement projects in the school district that are in need. AC for the gyms, this has been a dream of mine, and Mr. Storm actually brought this up in the meeting in my day. I'm gonna study that and see what we can do and what it would cost. The PA at the gym, we had both noticed that the speakers are off kilter a little bit. That was rectified by John and his crew. We just mentioned the gas tanks that are in need of replacement. That was also a topic of discussion. Something really great that our superintendent brought to us is Hawkins Playground. Looking to put some new playscapes in there for some kids that can use that really badly. The science room, you already heard that. I'm not gonna go back on that one again. Our facility planning, we are looking for long-range projects and what we can do and use that money for perhaps other revenue if we can come upon that. And that was about it for that meeting. The boring part was when the rest of it were done. Any questions?
I have a question. The capital dollars, I know the last multiple years have been not typical from budgeting between the bond and COVID money influx. But is that, that 600-ish, is that where we had been historically leaving in, or I'm just looking for a little bit of reference on those dollars.
Yeah, so basically what would happen each year is $50,000 of operating fund dollars would be transferred into the capital project fund. The revenue dollars, a portion of the VCPA ticket sales would go into there, and then it would earn interest. So that has just been the accumulation of that over the years.
Okay, thank you.
I have one more question on that, since that was brought up. So some of the funds that go in there are from the VCPA. We also have a deficit, if you will, or we're putting money into that. Is that balancing it out or close?
No, it's not, but it's not meant to do that. What it's meant to do is put money away for future projects. And not to cover operations.
I hear what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
So it's just kind of seems odd that we're moving money out of a program that runs a deficit, so what's the intent of that?
Yeah,
I agree with Ken that it's odd, we're moving money out of a program that runs a deficit to fund future improvements, like, what's the rationale there?
You want to answer that? Because when that decision, I wasn't here when that decision.
We inherited, this decision was made somewhere in the past, that was just the protocol,
Was it a bad decision?
I think it's worthwhile for the facility committee, not facility, for the finance committee to spend a little bit of time getting under the hood of that, because that's a question that I had as we went through this as well. So I'd like to discuss it with the committee, for sure.
Just a point of reference, I am hearing in Lansing that budgets won't be done until late September, possibly even a government shutdown in early October. So as we are budgeting for next year, I'm suggesting some conservative budgeting. Again, we should be prepared for a long-term unknown.
A fair point. And I will not disagree with that.
I just have a follow-up question on the pending legislation regarding the healthcare costs. You mentioned that you've built into the amended budget that's going to be up for vote this evening to include that cost on the assumption that it will ultimately become, signed by the governor, will become law. What is approximately that amount that we're talking about?
I'm remembering right, it's about $300,000.
Okay.
Maybe a little more than that.
And so if, for whatever reason, that ultimately does not become law, will we need to then come back and do another amended budget before year end to then remove that expenditure, or procedurally, how will that go?
To add to my recap, we will do a final amended budget in June when we do our budget for next year. So right before the year is over, now that we have a lot of really good information. We will do one last final budget.
Perfect.
So yes.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dave. All right, that concludes the superintendent report. That moves us to the call to the public. This is the time that if there's anyone here that would like to address the board, this is your opportunity to do so. Our protocol is to fill out a card at the rear of the room and place it in the box to the left of Dr. Mosier. You will have 3 minutes to address the board. Dr. Krebs will be keeping time. When there's 30 seconds left in your allotted time, she will give you a yellow card indicating the 30 seconds are left. And when your time is completed, she will give you the red card and you can wrap up your comments. So, the first I have is Missy Setti.
Should I go over there? Hi, thanks for giving me a few minutes tonight. I came to talk to you about the Scranton Middle School robotics team. We had another great season. I teach English at Scranton. This is my 4th year there. It's also my 4th year as the robotics coach at Scranton. This year we fielded 3 teams with 36 kids total, and I'm the only coach, so thank goodness I have 19 wonderful mentors who could come in and help out. Mentors are a little bit like Yoda and Mr. Miyagi wrapped in a ball of light, and they have to give these leading questions and pull the answers out of them and stand back and not touch the robot, which makes them stand just a little bit. But they do a really good job, and the kids really learn a lot because they are the ones building the robots. Each of our teams, we have an orange team, a black team, and a gray team, has 3 sub-teams. So students can be on the engineering team, which does the design and build of the robot. They can be on the business team, which practices budgeting, talking to sponsors, PR and marketing things. They design the t-shirts and the spirit wear, and they organize all the snacks and all the brochures and flyers that we take to competitions and all the graphic design. They get to work in Mr. Carney's lab with Mr. Carney to actually physically make the shirts, which is very cool. And the programming team, and they move from block programming in the lower levels at first up into programming with Java at the middle school level. So they did a great job with this. This year's theme was Into the Deep, and the robots had to pick up what were called samples. It was an under the water theme, which were 1.5 by 1.5 by 3.5 inch blocks. And they had 3 parts to the competition. There was the autonomous, where the robot had to do things all by itself. So that's where the programmers really came in. They started working on vision using cameras and things, but that didn't work out in the short amount of time we had to build. But they got their fingers into it to try it. But they were able to hang samples on the structure in the middle, move them to different places in the on the field, and put in the baskets during off time without any kids driving the robots. Then they have a 1.5 minute tele-op, which is when the kids can grab the controllers. We have a driver and an operator, and then the coach, which is the bossy kid. Right, they're like, I'm a bossy kid. And they can continue to move around these samples. There's a high basket, a low basket, and then rungs on the cage in the middle to hang these samples on. We had 1 team that could reach the top basket, 1 team that could hang on the rungs of the cage, and 1 team that could place in the low basket. So I'll skip ahead. We went to 2 competitions. We placed solidly in the middle for both competitions, which is really great because it is a rule that only kids can touch the robots on my teams, and that's not necessarily true everywhere. And the heart of the competition, the black team won the 2nd place for the motivation award. They helped judge the FLL competitions that Diane Shenville hosted at the STEAM Center at the high school. Currently, we have 8 8th graders interning for the high school team this season. And the high school team won the sustainability award twice last year because of the strength of programs at Scranton, Maltby, and elementary schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Eddie. We appreciate all that you do for your leadership and hard work for the robotics program. And congratulations to the Scranton robotics teams. And I would just suggest, at any point in time in the future, if you'd like to make a presentation, I would encourage, just reach out to Ms. Ackermine. We'd be happy to just put it on the agenda. So I don't want you to, you're providing great educational value and appropriate recognition for our students. I don't want you to be subjected to, the 3-minute rapid fire to try to cover all the information that you have to share with us. We value getting that information. I don't want anybody to feel like they're under the gun with a time restriction. I'd rather see you be able to, spend as much time as you need to be able to give the appropriate credit and recognition to our great students and all the hard work and success that they put in.
Thank you.
So spread the word, Dr. Alba, I would, anybody that wants to do that, don't feel like they need to be subjected to just the call of the public. Okay? Thanks. Okay, can you bring them off?
Hello, my name is Jean Marie Malfa. I teach at Scranton Middle School and I have 2 daughters who are Brighton graduates. I've spent quite a few years at the high school and a few years also at Spencer, Hawkins, and Rugby. In each of these locations, as well as Corning, where I volunteered for years for my daughter's classrooms, I have witnessed incredible educators doing truly remarkable things with their students. I am proud to be a Brighton teacher. At Scranton, in addition to teaching French, which is where I spent the majority of my career, I'm teaching in another area of my certification and reinventing myself as an ELA, a creative writing teacher. I'm here tonight to share with you news of an incredible evening last week for my creative writing classes. All semester, my 7th and 8th graders have been writing a wide variety of pieces, filling their portfolios with beautiful work that documents their growth as writers. In addition to this, these students work to plan and see to fruition their own creative writers' coffee house. Students worked collaboratively in committees of their choice all semester long, envisioning and making come to life an evening where they would create a welcoming environment and share something of their own writing with their family and friends. They surveyed families on foods and drinks to prepare, including allergies. They thought that. They chose decorating themes. They designed programs, worked with our media specialists to learn what they could do with our media center to create the ambiance they wanted to have. They chose a snowflake theme with beautiful decorations they handmade, dim lights, and flameless candles. They calculated how much they would need to prepare and buy based on the numbers anticipated. They set up and staffed an area to entertain younger kids so their parents could focus on listening. The media center smelled of coffee and treats. A bit too much coffee, actually, we had a spill. But with Mr. Renner's and the custodial staff's help, it's as good as new. And everyone was focused on listening to each student. Every single student who was able to attend spoke in front of a large crowd. These same students initially stared at me in disbelief when I told them they would and could do this, and they cleaned up. The students also hope to link this event with an act of service. They will be working to provide books to young students in need, details to come. It was an incredible night. After debriefing what they felt went well and what they could improve upon, their thoughts will be shared with this semester's creative writing students, who will consider them and decide on what they will create for this semester's coffee houses. You are all cordially invited in June. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I could just say, Mrs. Mopple was our December Extraordinary Bulldog of the Month, so just want to give her a little shout out.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well deserved.
You're gonna be a coffee.
John Conley.
Roger Myers.
The podium is yours.
Oh, thank you. I'm a little kid, we had some school property at the shop, and we'll make sure it got back to you. These are the clutches that came out of your door at Spencer. It's $125,000 in that bag. So just pass that down, everybody hold on to it. If you get it to our finance director, we should keep it. So I'd say $125,000, I'd like to pass it down. Already, like, send those on down. Those are clutches I changed in your door, our door. And I put it back here, it's just working just fine. As long as they've got further line correct. It's correct, so that's good news. You start the timer, okay, right there. Good evening, board. I handed out a couple of sheets. Welcome to our new board members. I actually printed some from the MASB, which is very surprising to me, but and I also handed out MCL on school boards and what their kind of their obligations are as school board members. But if you flip to page 2 of the MASB sheet, it starts, under Michigan law, the Board of Education has the ultimate responsibility for the school district. among other things, general powers, which is what you are. The school board is a general powers board. And if you all agree to something, it'll get done here, period. And it's anything to do with the school district. Administrator, superintendent is in charge, obviously. But if you guys decide you want to do something different than he's doing, the four of you agree, it gets done. And these laws are specific to school boards, and it's the real deal. And MASB even spelled it out pretty good. It talked about negotiating with employee unions regarding salaries and other conditions. In the past, we had a guy that represented the MASB, we were negotiating, but not our board. We didn't have a board member on the negotiating team. There was a decision made by the, I think, administration and our president of the board. I would support that you guys would put somebody from the school board on the negotiating team for our union contracts that are in the near future. Things may not always be as good as they've been these last few years for us financially, and we need to keep that in mind. I was here at the time that things weren't so good, but I'm happy to say they look pretty good tonight. I saw a few adjustments that we thought could be coming, and we did, but nothing that will have an impact, I don't think, on what you guys are going to do. But the other thing is, setting the curriculum is very important. We all know about taxing people. That's down there too. It's in the bottom paragraph. So if you have time, read through this. And then the MCL is the stuff I printed, but it's accurate and recently printed. We get printed back on 12/15. There you go. Now I'll use it my time if you want to read this together. All right. We're good. All right. Where are we at for time? We're kind of at what?
30 seconds.
That's it. Okay. Thank you. Thanks for good luck to everybody.
Thank you. All right, that concludes the call to the public for this evening and moves us into the for action portion of our agenda. Item A, regular meeting minutes of January 13, 2025. We have a motion to approve the minutes as presented. So moved. Moved by Mr. Stahl, supported by Mr. Storm. Any discussion?
We have a couple of, revisions, minor revisions. Check my head.
We've got, I did bring it at the start. One was just simply to turn me from Mrs. to Mr., so that got corrected.
Under part 5, election officers.
Start with,
X under 10 for action under motion, just to include the individual.
Okay. All right, so do we have a motion to approve the minutes as presented with those corrections? All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any nays? That passes 7-0. That moves us to item D, Human Resources Report. Mr. Anastasov.
It'll be a quick one today, so we do not have a report as expected. I will be till next board meeting, we'll have everything higher on that.
Okay.
So nothing today.
That's quick. All right, so no vote will be needed on that one. Move us to item C, School of Choice 2025-26. Do we have a motion to approve the proposed School of Choice for 2025-2026 as presented?
So moved.
support.
Moved by Dr. Krebs, support by Mr. Stahl. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any nays? That passes 7-0. That moves us to item D, the budget amendment. Obviously, Mr. Jones gave us the presentation earlier. Do we have a motion to approve the budget amendment as presented in the packet and as presented by Mr. Jones this evening?
So moved.
Moved by Dr. Krebs, seconded by Ms. Urbane. Any discussion?
Just a quick question.
Sure.
Dave, on page 11, under expenditures, it's like the second bottom half of the page. Looking at the line items that are called out under support services, there's general administration, school administration, business services, and then other central support. And my question is, what delineates those groups? And I guess more specifically, would you consider those to be administrative cost centers?
And actually, that is all designated by state mandate as to what, all activities in the district have to be booked under what's called a function code. The function codes are all clearly defined by the accounting manual from the state of Michigan.
Okay,
And so that's why everything.
so the state dictates what goes into each
That's
of those,
What goes
essentially
into it.
general ledger
Yes.
line items.
That's
So then, my kind of follow-on question was, so for each of those that were mentioned, would you consider those to be overhead, like general ledger accounts?
Most of
again, I
those would be, yes, yes.
Okay,
Here's the tricky part in that, the only caveat I would say to that is under school administration, that's the principal's office. So as much as you wanna call that overhead, it's still directly running the schools.
sure. Good, thank you.
Any other comments, discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any nays? That passes 7-0. That concludes the for action portion of our agenda. There is no for future action on our agenda this evening, and moves us into the board committee chair reports, community recognition. Mr. Stahl, you kind of gave the report earlier.
Mine got spoiled, yes. I have no further report.
Policy committee hasn't met yet. We do have a date scheduled. March 10th will be our first meeting unless we need it before that.
All right, and we did, just on that note, the committees, the composition of the committees were created this past week. For anyone that may be interested in public, I believe they are posted on our website now. And so we will be moving forward with our committee meetings in earnest. And we'll likely have more information to report out in future meetings. All right, anything further on that topic? All right. Moves us to, we have, the next meeting actually is February 10. We are having a 6 o'clock workshop where we will be having a presentation regarding various legal topics by Brad Van Assett from MASB. And then after that, we will conduct a regular meeting at 7 o'clock. Then that moves us to item 11 on the agenda, closed session.
I would make a motion to enter closed session for the purposes of discussing negotiating strategies connected with BEA, VESPA, and BOSHA bargaining units, inasmuch as the administration has requested a closed session.
We have a motion by Mr. Stahl,
Support.
support by Ms. Tierney. Any discussion? Roll call vote, Ms. Applewhite.
Mr. Storm?
Yes.
Mrs. Tierney?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Bain?
Yes.
Dr. Krebs?
Yes.
Mr. Stahl?
Yes.
Mrs. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Myers?
Yes. That passes 7-0. All right, we will be going into closed session at this point. We have no further items on, to conduct on our agenda this evening, so when we come back out of closed session, that will conclude our meeting for anyone who has any questions. So we will stand in recess and close session.
Yeah, we gotta come back up. So, camera stay on. So, the meeting is just. So everybody will just go to room 131, which is right at the bottom of the stairs. I don't think so.
Although I will tell you, my school always told me from my head. I give them 3 hours. Here's what I think it'll be, and if you want to be super safe, here's what it is. Usually, come in pretty close. Good situation. You're left out.
all the best schools, and we want to show like a great job of students that we were sort of really good, so like the student performance. Yeah, yeah.
Storm?
Yeah.
Great at basketball, I think here at Fairview.
Real small, those dogs. Right.
That team wants to get better, and our team probably did nothing like other than just.
Yeah.
And then, okay, let's do it fast.
Okay, we are back from closed session. That concludes everything on our agenda this evening, and the meeting is adjourned.
8:27, Star.
All right, thank you.